What's up YouTube, and welcome back to another episode of the Boss Recap, where we rate boss battles in our favorite video games. I'm your host DMLX, and in today's episode we'll be assembling DC's most expendable villains to save the world from terraformation in Suicide Squad Kill the Justice League. Developed by the acclaimed creators of the Batman Arkham series, Rocksteady Studios, Suicide Squad Kill the Justice League is the long-awaited successor to Rocksteady's Batman Arkham Knight, which released way back in 2015. So anticipation was high for Rocksteady's next big AAA project, and fans were hoping Rocksteady would develop a new Superman game or another Arkham game set during the events of Batman Beyond, but instead we got this. An action-adventure third-person looter shooter that can be played solo or with up to 4 players that requires you to have an online connection to play, littered with microtransactions for cosmetic materials. Where have I seen this before? Suicide Squad Kill the Justice League attempts to bring the studio's signature character-driven story gameplay with third-person shooter action, laced with an original narrative that is canon to the Arkhamverse, and takes place in the richly detailed utopian open world of DC's finest fictional city, Metropolis. Players take control of notable Suicide Squad members Harley Quinn, Deadshot, Captain Boomerang, and King Shark, who are forcefully tasked to take on an impossible mission to save Earth from the invading extraterrestrial Brainiac and kill the heroes of the Justice League under his cerebral control. The gameplay of Suicide Squad Kill the Justice League allows you to switch between all 4 characters at any point out of combat, with each character given access to 2 weapon classes, unique melee styles, as well as a method of traversal, from Harley using Batman's grapple gun to Captain Boomerang using the Speed Force Gauntlet, where you'll go around defeating waves of Brainiac's forces with specific objectives sprinkled into the mix, whether it's defending a payload, rescuing civilians, retrieving data, or hacking and destroying terminals. A skill tree progression is included, allowing players to invest in different attributes at any point throughout the game, for a different build of how one decides to approach combat engagements. Overall, my experience with Suicide Squad Kill the Justice League is a bit of a mixed bag. From a visual and technical standpoint, it's one of the best DC AAA games the franchise has to offer when it comes down to facial animations, cinematics, character models, and level design. Narratively, not so much, seeing that this game didn't really need to be tied into the Arkhamverse, and could have been a premise that stood on its own 2 feet like Gotham Knights. However, there are a good amount of character moments spread throughout the main campaign, from both members of Task Force X and the Justice League, whether it's the chaotic humorous chemistry between the squad,
Oh, you shouldn't have done that, Shark. That's Superman. He'll kick your ass.
Batman being portrayed as the boogeyman of vigilantes, or Wonder Woman being the badass Amazon warrior she's perfectly portrayed as. Seriously, if there was an MVP award for this game, my vote would go to the Princess of Themyscira, no doubt about it. In terms of gameplay, the game runs smoothly for the most part and does a solid job at providing a good amount of variety to the combat when it comes to the gunplay, melee styles, special abilities, and traversal tools. Though I did find it annoying that you must be connected to the internet to play the game, but it is what it is. On top of that, the repetitive missions that plague this game aren't worth the grind for the high quality gear and mods that are rewarded upon completion, unless you're playing on the highest difficulty settings. Although I do get a good kick out of seeing the victory screens from each member of the squad, and I do plan on coming back to play Kill the Justice League for the free story expansions and the new playable characters, but I'm not going to invest too much of my time and money when it comes to acquiring new gear or cosmetics. That being said, let's see how well Task Force X handled putting DC's greatest heroes 6 feet underground. There are a total of 5 bosses in Suicide Squad Kill the Justice League. 4 bosses are the founding members of the League, which include the Flash, Green Lantern, Batman, and Superman, with the final boss being the Collector of Worlds himself, Brainiac, who looks more like Voldemort if Harry Potter took place in the world of Cyberpunk 2077. The majority of the boss battles in Kill the Justice League take place in a large arena-like setting, where players are tasked to use counter shots in order to make bosses vulnerable to the squad's barrage of gunfire, as highlighted on top of the HUD, with bars indicating the boss's health and state of vulnerability. Altogether, the boss lineup for Kill the Justice League is delivered as advertised, but the execution for each encounter was quite underwhelming and not as thrilling as of an experience I hoped it would be, to say the least. A lot of time I'm just hopping around the level like a coked up bunny rabbit, ducking in and out of cover to get my shots off at the precise moment. Though I'll admit, these bosses did provide a decent challenge, and were surprisingly relentless in game upon my first initial playthrough solo. Personally, I wish Rocksteady went the extra mile to incorporate a few more Justice League members to go up against, such as Aquaman and Martian Manhunter, but knowing Rocksteady, this probably would have added 5 more years to the game's development cycle. So when looking at the boss tier scale, I'm going to be placing Suicide Squad Kill the Justice League's boss ranking in the D tier. The Soulsborne award for the hardest boss fight goes to Superman. Honestly, I think we shouldn't be surprised with this one. It's Superman, for crying out loud. The Man of Steel sent me to the game over screen the most during my initial playthrough of the game, thanks to Superman having a strong damage output and a wide range of abilities to keep me on my toes, from the use of his heat vision, deadly ice spikes planted around the map, summoning a large gust of wind, swinging vehicles at me like a baseball bat, to performing a solar-powered meteor strike. The Bowser Jr. award for the easiest boss fight goes to Batman when the squad is exposed to Scarecrow's fear toxin. This turned out to be one of the more simpler boss fights in Kill the Justice League, and was a subtle change of pace after going up against the likes of the Flash and Green Lantern, with the squad given limited space to maneuver around the established platform, while taking on a kaiju-sized nightmarish Batman that seemed to be designed based off the Dark Knight's shadowy demonic appearance at the end of Arkham Knight. Nightmare Batman has a unique stream of attacks which are fairly simple to counter and avoid, but are quite damaging if you're not careful, whether it's the use of his heat vision, sweeping flames, or hurling balls of darkness. The Great Mighty Pooh award for the worst boss fight goes to Brainiac. Without a doubt one of the most disappointing boss fights I've ever experienced in quite some time in all of gaming. Most of the time you're fighting off Brainiac's minions while he's hovering around in his little bubble, and then when Brainiac does decide to fight, for some reason the developers over at Rocksteady thought it would be a cool idea if Brainiac just turned into the Flash. Now if Brainiac turned into other members of the Justice League, I would have felt slightly better about the encounter. Slightly better. But this boss fight was just straight up lazily put together, and I fear players are going to be experiencing a lot more Brainiac boss fights like this when future story expansions inevitably drop. The Golden Pickaxe award for the most creative boss fight goes to the Flash. Though this boss fight was a bit of a pain in the boomerang to deal with, I found the Flash's moveset to stand out the most, with him constantly zipping around the map at breakneck speeds, blasting lightning bolts at you like Zeus, creating giant Speed Force tornadoes, and even manifesting shadow clones of himself to throw players off guard. The Ultimate Showdown award for the best boss fight goes to nobody. Like I said before, I didn't find any of the boss fights in Kill the Justice League particularly exciting to experience, even though there were some cool and interesting visuals displayed in each encounter, but not enough for me to relish the moments and go back to replay the missions once more. And that concludes the latest episode of the Boss Recap. Let me know what you guys think in the comments down below about your experience with Suicide Squad Kill the Justice League. And if you enjoyed this video, make sure to hit the like button, it really helps me out. Subscribe for more content from me on the Boss Recap and other gaming content in general. I'm DMLX. I'll see you in the future.